The Witness. This nice little title was released in 2016 and made by the same person who made Braid. And this game was definitely groundbreaking. No, more like an experience, I should say. It's basically set on in an open world style on an island. Now, I'd like to say that there is some way to define on where it's located, but you can't. But as it works, you actually start in a tunnel that leads out into a castle-like structure, or fort-like structure. I think a fort-like structure is better to explain this initial area. And you have to solve puzzles. Each puzzle has a starting point, so to speak, with a globe, or not a globe, a sphere or a circle. And you have to draw a path to the endpoint. Some puzzles have multiple endpoints, and there's meaning to that. And each puzzle has a way to be solved. And you work your way through this little island trying to find the proper location, or not really a proper location. You have any order you can solve these puzzles in. Some it might be wiser to solve them in before others because they teach you something later down the line. Now this island also has like statues of people on it. And it also has other unique things on it. Each puzzle you could find a way to solve it in some way. For example, there is like a little small orchard area where you have where your puzzle, it looks like it has multiple endpoints. But the endpoint you need to find is the one that corresponds to an apple on one of the branches of the trees. There are puzzles that are designed on symmetry, where you get to start at one point, but you're drawing actually two paths. Some puzzles are a little bit deformed, so you have to figure it out from there. And it's brilliant. Perspective plays a key. And you'll notice that there are some statues on the island, people in various poses and that. And believe it or not, if you look at them in the right way, you see something. There is like a large statue sort of carved into a mountain that's reaching down. And then there's another statue of a girl reaching up. And positioned just right, they touch each other. Or they look like they touch each other. And that's one of the beautiful things about this. There is a lot of perspective. There's a lot of taking a moment to look around and understand. You solve the puzzles by finding them. Some of them are a little trickier to find because parts of their clues is broken or missing. And you have to solve it from there. And this is a beautiful game. I mean, part of me would just love to walk around that island, and it's so beautiful. And that's part of the beauty of it. That's what I loved about it. Now, of course, hidden on the island, there's about a few vaults, which when you open them and open a little chest inside the vaults, you find a diagram of a puzzle or of one possible puzzle path. And if you do your searching proper and you find it, you find a little theater in there and has some interesting little movies in it. One of which is linked to one of the longest puzzles in the entire game. There are audio logs all throughout the island, and each one has a rather thoughtful saying attached to it, or a little something to make you think. One I find, or it's a lot, one I recall as it talks about how it is easier for an uneducated man to go through a door than it is for one highly educated, because the highly educated person starts to contemplate all the minor things, the minor detail changes that we don't think of when when we just have simple thoughts. And every one of these audio logs, it's brilliant. It makes you think. A story of a man who lent his boat to some refugees, but it turns out that the boat was insured and in ill repair and sank, which could disguise a good deed disguising a nefarious purpose. That everything in this game makes you think. Everything in this game makes you take time to reflect. And that is what was beautiful about it. You could go through this game and solve puzzles. It could take you a while to solve all the puzzles. But there is a goal to it. As you solve the key puzzles in certain areas, you make your way to a laser device in some of these sections. And the lasers, the majority of the lasers, hint, when they're activated, they point to a point on the top of the mountain. That is where your final destination, or your path to the final destination, begins. You may have heard me gripe about that in the one video, but as you go through this island, your puzzles change or have different ways of being solved. For example, in order to get some puzzles solved, you have to change the lighting. It makes sense when you see it happen. For some puzzles, you have to solve it with not just your brains, but with your feet as well. There is at least a maze in the game where you have to follow a path. You have to figure out what the path is. And you figure it out by walking the path. Sometimes you can see a path or memorize your path and match it up with what you took. And some are brilliant because you have to rely on the shadows to figure out your path, or to figure out what the right path is by avoiding them or going along them. Maybe both. You come across something new in one area where you are told, where you learn that something cancels, which means you can solve the puzzle one way or another as long as you have something to cancel out. Be it an item that you have to include or exclude. One such area you have to get through by utilizing different shapes. And that's the other thing. You got puzzles that involve shapes, where you have to include certain shapes as you're figuring things out. You can use it to cross some areas, like a moving bridge. And there's also hidden puzzles, hidden environmental puzzles. I mean, a key example. You look at something, you step on that fort, and you look at the path that heads out, and it looks like the one area is a sphere or a circle, and you draw a line along the path. And some are even sneakier. There's one environmental puzzle which you need clouds to align to make the path. And someone got it figured out. It's a 14-minute cycle. 1 minute out of 14 when you can form this path. Or another one where you solve these puzzles that you have to figure out the path by walking it. Figure out the proper path by walking it. And boom, you can now trace it and you have an environmental puzzle. And some environmental puzzles are hidden. Solving some bridges in one area, and you get to the underneath of them and, hey, there's one of those hidden puzzles. It's brilliant. It's brilliant, and they do what they can to hide these details from you. Of course, though, when you finally get the mountain opened up, and you only need 6 of the lasers to do it, and there's about, I think, 11 on the island, maybe less, only 10 of which actually point to the mountain, because one laser actually helps you find and solve an environmental puzzle. And you can get into the mountain. And when you follow the path through the mountain and solve the puzzles in the mountain, you will come out in an area that is, you actually pass by it on a little ship. That's another neat thing in that game, that little ship, because you can go around the island finding more puzzles. Some that you have to, hold while you make the, environmental puzzles that you have to hold, start at one point and solve them and keep holding and keep matching up. And if you miss it, then you're screwed. Trust me, those can be trying. Not as trying as one, quote, movie linked puzzle, because that takes, you have to you have to have the whole movie on, and you have to hold down the button to draw the path, and it takes an hour. And I'm sure anyone who can tell you, you hold a button for that long, it hurts. It's painful. But it's doable. Of course, solving the environmental puzzles, you see them light up on these pillars that are at 6 points on the island. And when you complete them all, the pillar turns white. And there is one. Well, but back to going in. When you go, come out to this one area, it's like coated in water. And it's basically, you could see the final area on that little boat ride. And you get in. Solving all the puzzles raises the elevator up. A glass elevator. Which, when you complete it, you actually you hear some words as the elevator rises up into the air, soars around the island, and as it soars around the island, it resets every puzzle you've done, undoes all the lasers shut down, and you're taken back to the beginning. I was not fully aware this was going to happen when I encountered it, and it ticked me off a little bit because I wanted to do every puzzle. Now, I found do all the environmentals, I found most of them. I found all the audio logs. I was grateful for that. But there is a section known as the challenge. You have to solve puzzles, but they're random each time, so, no such thing as getting help on that. And yes, there's some areas that give you random puzzles that pop up, solving some inside a time limit before they close and reset to a new one. Of course, once you solve one in one of those sections, you don't have to worry about doing it again. But there is a hidden puzzle that will reveal a hidden ending. And when you do that ending, you walk through this. When you solve this puzzle, you create a gate to this surreal hotel, I should say, or a surreal spa, or something like that. Where as you climb up into it and that, you can actually play audio cues to hear credits. And then make your way all the way through it and actually emerge sort of seeing seeing it from the creator's point of view, and you can see where some of these quote inspirations for these puzzles and that came from, or something like that. You see where the development was done, something like that. And then, going outside and looking up, and that basically ends it. The Witness is a very remarkable game. The Witness is also it's an experience. I think everybody should at least play it or experience it once. Maybe one day I'll just replay it again just for fun. Not for a video or anything like that. Because, like I said, it's an experience. You solve puzzles. Both regular and environmental. Puzzles hidden in the environment. There are thought-provoking words in it. That hour-long one, that has some very, the hour-long video, that has some very interesting details in it. And it's something to listen to. Play The Witness. Experience it. And that's all I'm going to say about The Witness. I hope you've enjoyed listening to me talk about The Witness, and I hope you go out and experience it for yourself one day. As always, this is Rich Gale here on YouTube, Rich Gen X elsewhere. Bye.